Good evening. So we'll get into the class now. But before I continue, I don't know if you guys can see my slide. Please, if you can see my slide, just let me know so I can continue with the class. Hello, can you all hear me?
Join now. Go to the group.
Can you see my slide, please? Someone should respond so I can
Yes,
continue.
we can see your
Yes,
slide.
well, we can see it. I'm
Okay.
going.
So today we'll be treating unseen text analysis, and we'll be doing a bit of revision. We'll be touching some points today. And this unseen text is really important because it's going to like help you know how to answer questions when you come across some questions during your exam, right? So um, unseen text is just like analyzing critical examination of literary passages like prose and poetry. Like you're trying to understand what you're reading, like the prose or poetry. You're trying to get proper, or you're trying to get the message the author is trying to pass across. Like you're reading it very well. The aim is just to evaluate one the structure, the language, the theme of the text, the tone of the author, and style in real time as far as you're reading it. Either it's like he's using anything prediction or he's trying to use this auto way of writing. So your approach to unseen prose. First, you have to read carefully to understand the character, and the tone. Like the tone of the writer determines the mood of the reader. As far if the tone of the writer is harsh, definitely what you'll be get like what when the person is when you're reading that particular text, you'll be feeling somehow. You understand? You'll be feeling angry to like evoke emotions like anger, that kind of thing. So reading carefully to understand these three elements: the plot, the character, and the tone. What what how is the writer conveying his message? Is he doing it in a very subtle way or is doing it in a very, very harsh or rude way that will make people like, oh, this man, like he's very harsh with his words, kind of thing. Then you identify narrative voice, you identify the point of view as far narrative voice like first person narrative, second person narrative, third person, his own point of view, and figurative language. Then lastly, you examine syntax and diction and thematic elements. Syntax is just a way of arranging words, like you arrange words or phrases in a particular sentence. That's what syntax means. So you examine the arrangement of words, you examine diction, that is the style of writing, that's use of language, then you examine the thematic elements in the sense of like is it talking about love? Is it talking about betrayal? Is it talking about war? That kind of oppression? So you are trying to identify all these things. So it will help you critically when you come across plots, all these plot text or prose text or poetry, and then you'll be able to answer questions, or you'll be able to have, if you're not answering questions, you'll be able to have more meaning, like give more analysis, critical analysis about what you're studying. All right. Now, approach to unseen poetry. Understand the speaker, understand his tone or her tone, and the subject matter. Secondly, you identify poetic devices such as metaphor, simile, alliteration, enjambment. You know what alliteration? Alliteration is just like the repetition of a particular word in a like in the beginning of a sentence. And enjustment is like a phrase that runs into another one or like another line without pausing. So you're able to identify all of this in poetry that will help you have a better understanding of what you're studying. Like I said earlier, you analyze structure. That is how is the poem organized. Is it a free verse poem or is it a poem that has a rhythmic pattern? You analyze all of these facts and you identify them. It will help you understand it properly, and then for exam context, you can be able to answer questions. Now you identify rhyme, reading, and theme. Now let's take this practice example of unwritten, unseen prose. Now is an example is he walked slowly, dragging his past like a torn coat. I'll take that again. He walked slowly, dragging his past like a torn coat. Now the question is, discuss how the author uses imagery and tone to create mood. Now, the answer here is the use of dragging his past. Already, when you see, when you across this excerpt now, you're saying he walked slowly. Hmm. What gets you're already picturing someone that's walking very slow, dragging his past like a torn coat. So now the message that's conveyed now is like emotional weight, regret, enhancing a somber tone. Definitely. The the writer is his mood now is a sad one. Definitely. Whoever that is reading it definitely gets that message and like gets a sad message from it. Now on same poetry example. You see here, the example here is, the night has 1,000 eyes and the day but one. I'll take it again. The night has 1,000 eyes and the day but one. The question is, analyze the use of contrast and imagery. Now, contrast is between night and day that reflects duality and perception. And imagery now um using imagery to evoke curiosity. Now, in this sense, now going further, you can now say you'll be picturing firstly how the night thousand eyes, has 1,000 eyes, and how the day has but one. So, since the question was just for us to analyze using contrast and imagery, there are other forms in this. There are unseen context in this particular excerpt. Excerpt. You're contrasting between night and day because different perception of people, and you're using imagery now to evoke the curiosity of people because now you're seeing night. Firstly, night does not have eyes on a normal, like you're using like a human attribute to describe night. You're already evoking curiosity, and that curiosity now will make the reader now to think critically. What is this? What is this writer? What the message is trying to pass across? You understand? So that's the reason most writers, the figures of speech they use is usually to evoke curiosity, to evoke critical thinking of the reader. You understand? Now, elements of style in criticism. Elements of style, like when you're criticizing criticism, have diction. Diction is the choice of words. If it's simple, if it's ambiguous, if it's very complex. Then we have syntax. Syntax is sentence structure, like I said earlier. We have figurative language, like metaphors, similes, specifications. We have tune, we have mood. Like this, like the author's attitude versus the reader's emotional reaction. Tune is for the author, why mood is for the reader. Structure in literature. Now we have linear narration and we have non-linear narration. So linear narration is just practically talking about the flow, like arranging events in a particular order, like how events are organized in a particular narration. Reading it like they follow after each other to make sense to whoever is reading it. You understand? But non-linear narration is just the opposite of this. It's just a reader now that will be trying to make sense of what he's reading by pinpointing all those things, making the arrangement in his head. But for linear narration, the author has already arranged it in a particular sequence. You understand? Now we have stanzaic structure in poetry, like putting all the lines in standards helps the reader. You understand? It's more structured. You put it like okay, a particular poem has like four stanzas, each stanza having 4 lines or 5 lines. All this arrangement helps for like proper reading or proper understanding of whatsoever the the reader. You understand? Now we have chapters for prose, we have chapters, we have paragraphs, we have flashbacks for understanding too. Now we have dramatic unities in drama. Dramatic unities now. It comes in at the point of resolution. Dramatic unities in drama. Now juxtaposition and irony. So juxtaposition is we came across this for last week. It's a placement of contrasting ideas highlight a difference. Like you're trying to put two like different things. Like if I say now, all fair in love and war. Now I'm comparing two opposite things like love and war. They are contrasting. You cannot be warring and you say people that are warring have love. You understand? People that are in love are at war, that kind of thing. So they are both they are contrasting ideas, but putting them together is just to highlight a particular difference, like trying to highlight their differences. While irony is the use of words to convey the opposite meaning, it creates suspense, humor, and criticism. Like if I say the fire station burnt down now, that's like an irony of fact because definitely a fire station is a place where fire should not be happening in a fire station. You understand? Because all safety tips to avoid fire should be done in a fire station. But now here that a fire station burned down, wow, you'll be like one you're seeing here, it creates suspense, humor, or criticism. Definitely be a fire station born. You'd be like, what were they doing? They were careless, that kind of thing. So people will start criticizing. You understand? So these two, though they are in the same family kinda, but one is just to contrast ideas and the other is to convey opposite meaning of what's saying. Now let's recap on a prose genre. We have types of prose as fiction, which can be further grouped into novel, short story, and we also have novella. Now we have non-fiction, and this subgrouped into biography, memoir, pictures of prose. This is just to recap because we've done this before. We have plot, we have character, setting, and theme. And we have the technique of prose, the technique of writer now. So we have dialogue, foreshadowing. Foreshadowing is just like flashback, but rather than going in like to the past now, this time around we're going into the future. You understand? And we have suspense. Another genre is poetry. Now, forms of poetry, we have sonnet, which is a 14-line poem. We have ode, that's just a type of poem that um appreciate kind of poem that express appreciation or praise to a particular person or thing. Now we have free verse. Free verse is a type of poem that doesn't have structure. And these free verse are majorly like the characteristics of modern poems. We have features like imagery, rhyme, and rhythm. And we have literary devices like alliteration, assonance, enchantment, and zero. Drama genre. Now, forms of drama, we have tragedy, comedy, tragicomedy, and farce. Elements are dialogue, that's number one, act, scenes, and then it might consist of like act one, scene one, act two, scene one, that's scene. We have soliloquy. Now, concept, catharsis, this is like a form of purging, like something that is done to purge, let's say, for example, now, this catharsis now is usually in, let's say, tragedy. A lot of bad is, then suddenly something, the writer just introduces something just to relieve the strong emotion. It could be music, it could be a comic act, something that just relieves that whole tension. Now, another concept is dramatic irony, and we have climax. So now, understanding themes across genres. Now, common themes have love across genres. Most poets write about love. Most prose fiction authors write about love. Non-fiction too. Yeah, you can see a bit of that. Write about love. Drama. Write about love. There's betrayal. There's power. There's identity. There's freedom. There's death. So they share these common themes. Prose, drama, poetry share these common themes. Interpretation varies by genre, by tone, by author's intent. So the use of sorry, use theme as a foundation for analysis. So someone about to say something. So the genres they use theme because when you read you read a post context now, they will definitely be when they talk about characters, the plot and everything, there's theme to tell us like the more like moral lessons kind of or what the book is about. For poetry, there's place for themes, for drama also. So now this is just like using it for further analysis to analyze the poet, to analyze um the text. So this is just a tip for you guys. So preparing for the prep exam is structured. So firstly, you study literary terms and devices. I hope people have been doing that, studying literary terms, literary devices, past questions, practice past prepare on text, understand context and authorial intent. This has to do with the theme too. Why is the writer writing what he's writing? What message is he trying to pass across? So you understand context of their intent. Now you use PEEL. PEEL stands for acronym for point, evidence, explanation, and link. Now this will help you in your essays. You point out, you give evidence, you explain, and you link up your story. Just imagine you write about a particular character. You don't just start writing about the whole book. No. You are pointing out that character, bringing out evidence. Like just if you say now, write how this person's love towards this affects the whole plot twist, for example. So everything this character did to make sure that the plot got a twist. All the examples now, you understand? Pick them and talk about them. That's the explanation now. And then you link it to the whole question. That you're not writing abstractly. I don't know if I'm making sense. So if you're writing your essay should not be most times people answer out of context. They are trying to I know it's literature you are supposed to write, you understand, but then most times you write on point. You point, you write your evidence, you explain, and you link it up to the question. So we have critical vocabularies to master. We have allegory, allusion, apostrophe, ambiguity, euphemism, paradox, satire, and synecdoche. So the mastery of this improves critical writing and analysis. I don't know if you guys can explain any of this now. I don't know. Before you give me feedback, it's just a long time. So let me apostrophe. We know that apostrophe is like you're talking to a particular thing without it being present. Talking to a particular, let's call it an element or something without it being present. Euphemism is like when you're trying to talk about a very harsh or a bad situation, but then you are doing it in a very mild way, in a subtle way. Like you could say, instead of you saying, this woman is so wicked, you can just say, this woman is not so good. Yes, and that's euphemism. So I don't know if um you guys can like you will have all the meaning of this vocabulary at your fingertips. If people will come across them, if you can explain them. Paradox. Okay, paradox is like contradicting statements, but when you look at it critically, true. Just like when you're saying something like, "This is the beginning of an end," or the beginning of the end. It might look beginning of the end. It's not making sense as like when you first hear it. But then when you just pause to reason it critically, it makes more sense to you. Yes. Now, exam strategy, how to answer your questions. You spend 5 minutes reading, 10 to 15 minutes planning, right? You're just trying to manage your time to ensure you are able to touch all your questions, answer now. Structure essay, introduction, the body, three paragraphs, conclusion. So these just um tips for you guys. And in this slide will get to you, so you also study the tips again. So I want us to quickly watch the poem. Um, how many of you were able to study the poem that was sent to the group this week? So can you hear me? Hello. Did anybody
Yes,
study
we
the
are hearing you.
Did anybody study
Yes,
the
we are hearing you.
All right. So were you able to study the poem that was sent to your group chat this week?
Yeah,
Yeah, ma. We are hearing you.
Okay. Did people study the poem?
màtún bá wà lódò mú náà.
Hmm?
Can you hear me?
So okay, I want us to do it together. So the poem is what's that poem again? Nightfall in Soweto, Abi. Hope people can still see my screen.
Yes, we can. We can.
Oh. So now I want us to read the poem. Let me read the poem so that when we start talking about it should be making sense. So this poem is by Oswald Meshali. This is South African. Well, nightfall comes like a dreaded disease. Hope you hear. We are treating the poem. And hope the person one time last week said something that you understand this poem. Hope he's in this class. Nightfall comes like a dreaded disease, seeping through the pores, the held body, and ravaging it beyond repair. A murderous hand lurking in the shadows, clasping the dagger, strikes down the helpless victim. I am the victim. I am slaughtered. Every night in the street, I am cornered by the fear, gnawing at my timid heart, gnawing at my timid heart. In my helplessness, I languish. Man has ceased to be man. Man has become beast. Man has become prey. I am the prey. I am the quarry to be run down by the marauding beast, let loose by the cruel night fall from his cage of death. Where is my refuge? Where am I safe? Not in my matchbox house, where I barricade myself against nightfall. I tremble at his crunching footsteps. I quake at his deafening knock at the door. Open up, he barks like a rabid dog, thirsty for my blood. Nightfall, night, you are my mortal enemy. But why were you ever created? Why can't it be daytime? Daytime forevermore. Alright, that's that. Hope we were following. Alright, so now the summary of the poem is just trying to depict fear, brutality that was experienced by black South Africans under apartheid. So now the speaker describes how night, which should bring peace, instead brings a time of terror. Poem vividly portrays violence, uncertainty, and the lack of safety faced by ordinary people, particularly in Soweto Township, symbolic of black oppression in South Africa. So during this time of apartheid, sorry, these black people they suffered brutal killings during the night. You understand? So from their home, they like all this the enemy now. Let me use that word. Came by night to kill and murder them. So that's why the man has to make the title Nightfall in Soweto. It's not really figurative. It's actually how it happened. By night, that's when these people were killed. It didn't happen during the day. During the day, they would just wake up to dead bodies and on the street. When did this happen? In the night. So now the thing is oppression and injustice, fear and insecurity, racial inequality, loss of innocence, violence, and helplessness. So for oppression and injustice, the poet is the poem is set during apartheid and illustrates systemic violence. The black people and poor people were oppressed, they were killed. You understand? Now, fear and insecurity. Night is feared rather than welcomed. It becomes a symbol of danger. So now, when night comes, people begin to envision danger. They begin to envision threats to their lives. You understand? Now, racial inequality. The poem exposes the racial tensions and brutality faced by blacks. Hope we are following. Please, if there's anything you need to ask something, please ask.
All right,
Loss
ma.
of innocence. So by night, or rather, nightfall robs people of their peace, their hope, and their safety. Silence and helplessness. The speaker and the community are voiceless in the face of oppression. Nobody speaks up. They cannot really, defend themselves because these people are poor. That's the injustice here. They are poor. They are part of the southern part, southwest part of the town. So nothing really. They can get killed and nobody speaks for them. So the literary device of the poem is personification. Now, personification, we know what personification is using inanimate, use human attributes for inanimate objects or elements. Now, nightfall comes like a dreaded disease. Night is giving human characteristics. You are giving, like, say, nightfall comes like a dreaded disease. You are giving night human characteristics, meaning like a dreaded disease, like a thief. That's another example. Comparison reinforce fear and dread. Now, comparing nightfall to a dreaded disease now is trying to make the reader fearful, and comparing it to a thief. You know what a thief does? Comes to like take away their peace, their joy. You understand? So this is using this comparison by the author was just to reinforce fear and dread. Now imagery. Now vivid scenes of violence. The example is my shoulders ache as I lie waiting for the final night. So you are trying to picture. And there's another example. Yeah, there's another example here of imagery. Now, where is that? Uh-huh. A murderous hand lurking in the shadows, clasping the dagger, strikes down the helpless victim. Now, this paints a picture in your head. You understand? This imagery, this sound now is evoking like a thought, putting an image to what you're reading. So, arbitration, thickening smell of blood. The arbitration there now is um, a thickening smell of blood. Now, this draws attention and enhances the mood. The mood here now is the reader, us, enchantment flow into each other, mimicking the ongoing fear and lack of resolution. Yes, because you're not in this poem now, you're not seeing where the people are saved. The author did not tell us whether finally these murderers were apprehended. He didn't say such, so there's no resolution. It just flowing from the beginning of when the poem started till when he got to that point where he said, "From nightfall comes like a dreaded disease to daytime forevermore." There's no point where we see the people got freedom or the people stopped they stopped killing them. That kind of, so there's no resolution. There's that enjoyment now is pause in between lines, so there's no pause that leads to any resolution. So now the analysis or breakdown of the standards, we have standard one, nightfall comes like a dreaded disease, seeping through the pores of a healthy body. Nightfall is not peaceful, it's invasive and feared. Now we're going to analyze that first stanza. The metaphor of disease shows how deeply it has entered the people's life. It's like a dreaded disease metaphor. And this is just to show how deeply people have now they now fear the night. Right? Standard two. I am the victim. Simple personal line show the speaker's helplessness. The three to five describes arrest, violence, and bloodshed without explanation or justice. Emphasis emphasizes randomness of violence during apartheid. So apartheid causes more violence and rape. So that's what Standard 3 was talking about, describing the arrest, violence, bloodshed, and injustice. My only sin is my skin. This is the central line that exposes racism as the root of injustice. So the speaker hides in fear, emphasizing the loss of dignity and security. So the person that's narrating now is kind of this point is telling us that he's kind of hiding, which also shows his fear to say that they've lost their freedom to speak up, the freedom to fight for themselves. So now this is just trying to emphasize how they've lost their dignity, how they've lost their security. So the poem ends with unresolved tension, showing that the fear continues. Okay. So down here we have possible JUPEB and exam questions. So on the on, let's just take one question here. We'll do 2 poems tonight. I don't know. This class will end by 10:30. Can we still hear? Are we still following?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So now let's take question.
Please, we would like to see everything from the top, please. Or those are just coming now, please. Thank you.
Are you seeing it now?
Yes, ma'am.
We're about answering a question. So I want to pick a question that we can just quickly answer before we move to the next poem. Okay, let's answer question 5. So comment on the mood of the poem and how it changes if at all. Did we get the question?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So please someone should quickly help us with the answer to that. Comment on the mood of the poem and how it changes. That if at all the mood of if you think the mood of the poem changed at some point?
I'm not
Someone
seeing
help
this
me
live.
out. You're not seeing this live. Can you see it now?
No,
How about now?
same
Look at
thing. I'm
you.
not seeing anything.
Is it the only person that can't see this live?
Zoom it, you will see it. Zoom
I
it.
do need to.
Why I can't see anything. There's nothing showing on my screen. Okay, I can see it now.
Okay. So please, someone should comment on the mood of the poem.
Uh, on my part, I
Uh,
think the mood of the poem is sad, is fearful, and is sorrowful. It speaks of terror. That is on my own part. That's what I feel. It's
okay.
fearful and sad, yeah.
So do you think at any point, the mood of the uh, author now, writer changed?
Yes, the mood of the writer actually changed close to the end to a more hopeful tone.
Uh, Wait, is the person asked? Are you the one that answered first? Because your voice is
Oh,
sounding different.
no, I'm not the one that answered. I'm not the one that answered.
Okay. So both of you are correct. His mood is fearful and it's kind of yes, his mood is fearful, and at the end of the time, is a bit. So you both are correct. So that's to say that you are following the class, and I hope the person that talked about this poem is here, and maybe by now he will understand it better because he said he did not understand. So let's go to a similar poem. This one is At Sunset. Let me find it. All right. Sunset by Alfred. So at sunset, split oil filled trenches far afield create a smoke screen over the city. Please, can we see this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Create a smoke screen over the city on the Tigris, rising up above the 8-lane flyovers, lingering high above Mesopotamia plain, sweeping over grandiose war memorials, pervading mosques and walled-off presidential palaces, gliding over the flat skyline of a few high rises. As darkness falls, new air raids rock. The sprawling city of mud brick houses, Third Infantry Brigade advances, capturing the bedrock of a people in pain. Sight tightened close on the trigger of the grenade. Command to go ahead and invade, bang, break, and ransack places for weapons, mass destruction. Though smoke bites their eyes, thousands of poor people take to the streets looking for loadable loot and eatable treats. Air raid sirens drown their voices as sunset on their freedom and fame. Malaysia puts their AK-47 assault rifles. Sunni insurgents shoot their IEDs, fomenting scuffles after Friday prayers. So these protests joined millions in the city across the globe to manifest newly found freedom and fame, burning flags and effigies of those who grabbed as sunsets on foreign forces and mayhem nearby checkpoints smothers in flames. Smoke rises up above and beyond their newly exported freedom and fame. All right, this one is a bit hopeful. Okay, the summary of this poem at sunset is a deep. Let me try to increase this and see. Okay, this is better. So the summary at sunset is a deeply philosophical poem in which the speaker contemplates life's journey through the metaphor of suns of setting sun. So no, this song title is a bit metaphorical. The poet observes the elderly who sit silently, waiting for the final phase of life, that's death. There's a contrast between the innocence and energy of youth, a frailty and reflection of old age. Ultimately, the poem presents aging. Sorry, I was wondering what I was reading right. Okay. Uh, oh, this is. Mhm. Can you hear me, please? Hello. There's
Yes, I can
something
hear
I
you.
want. There's something I want to correct. Please, who is the author of At Sunset now? Because I'm getting to At Sunset.
Alfred.
Yes, it's Alfred Kusibi.
By who?
Alfred.
Alfred Kusibi.
Oh, sorry. This At Sunset summary I have now is by Gabriel Okara. That is a foreign poet. A foreign poem, sorry. And this one is African. So there's a problem to do another song for you guys. And let's just move to. I have another poem here, another poem summary. Anthem for Doomed Youth. Who is the author, please? I was supposed to clarify that from you guys. Who is the author of? Who is
Wilfred.
the author of?
Wilfred Owen.
Oh, okay. So that means I'm correct. Okay. Most of people's poems are talking about war. War. So Wilfred Owen. This is not an African poem. So Anthem for Doomed Youth is another anti-war poem. It laments the tragic deaths of youth soldiers during World War One. Instead of instead of dying with dignity or ceremonial rites, they are slaughtered like animals on the battlefield. The poem contrasts the brutal sounds of war with the traditional religious funeral rites the soldiers will never receive. It mourns the loss of young lives and the emptiness that war brings to families and communities. So the theme of this poem is brutality, horror of war, loss and mourning, dehumanization, contrast between war, ritual, youth, and innocence. Innocence, sorry. So the first thing now, the poem tries to highlight how senseless and brutal war is, particularly for young soldiers. When they recruit young soldiers without any expertise, just put them into the battlefield. And when people are not experienced for war now, definitely they will be killed, they will die. So the writer here is trying to highlight how senseless it is to even begin all this war in the first place. Now, loss and mourning, it expresses deep sorrows for the loss of youth and the emotional pain left behind. So, youth here can also be figurative in the sense that, youth is seen as future. So now when the youth is killed, there's no future again for that country that's at war. So there's loss and there's mourning. So there's deep sorrow for the loss of youth and the emotional pain left behind for their families to bear. Dehumanization. Soldiers are described as cattle, emphasizing how war strips them of identity and dignity. Rather, you've heard, I don't know, maybe you must have heard sometimes they are this particular man. There are some people that go, there's hierarchy in all this in armed force. So now these soldiers now they are not giving such recognition because it's just a situation of who can die. Nobody cares who this person is, just can die. So there's nothing like identity. You don't even know who you're fighting, from which family it's from. There's no dignity. People that actually lost their life, there's no honor for all of that, you understand? So it's talking about dehumanization. Another theme is contrast between war and ritual. So the absence of proper funeral rites for fallen soldiers underscores their tragic fate. So now, when you just, when this kind of thing happen now, all those soldiers now, they are unidentified. They cannot identify most of them. What they don't do is mass burial. They do mass burial for them. So the poet is trying to say, this thing now you are doing, it's not like, funeral, like ritual. This funeral is like ritual that you are doing. Rather than giving these people proper burial, you just discard of their bodies like that. So he feels that this war bring this death that makes all this. So he's trying to contrast between war and ritual. What's the difference now? Where you like ritual, you just bring people, so you don't even know. When you hear about ritual now, you kill they bring just maybe you kill people without thinking about their families and caring for their life and the rest. And they are contrasting between how war between has the same effect. So the absence of proper funeral rites for fallen soldiers underscores their tragic fate. The last thing is youth and innocence. The title itself portrays, points to the tragedy of young lives that's doomed for, what's the title again? Anthem for the Doomed Youth. So the title itself points to the tragedy of young life lost before maturity. There are some literary devices such as simile. This was these who die as cattle and comparing soldiers to animals being slaughtered, shocking and dehumanizing. Alliteration, shattering rifles, rapid rattle mimics the sound of gunfire, creates harsh rhythm. Now we have personification, monstrous anger of the guns, trying to give um, gun an attribute for human being or human attributes. To give the weapons human traits, increasing the horror. Imagery, strong visual and auditory images of war, e.g., gunfire, rifles, palo of girls, bros. Contrast. Now we have war versus peaceful funeral custom. The tone of the writer is mournful, it is bitter, and it's reflective. Oh, octave. This is octave in the sense that the first lines of the poem, we're trying to analyze it now. The author, Owen, questions what kind of funeral rites soldiers get in war and answers none. That's rhetorical now. This is rhetorical. He questions the rights soldiers get in war, and definitely he doesn't get an answer. Also, instead of church bells, there's the sound of guns. Instead of choirs, there's the demented choirs of wailing shells. Okay. The use of harsh, brutal sounds creates a sense of violence and terror. As the surface. Please read that. Put up your mic. This poem is 14 lines. So now at the surface now, he shifts to the hometown where loved ones mourn the dead in silence. The pallor of girls, bros, shall be their power. No physical coping, just feeding memories and sorrow. Now, the final line of the poem, talking about it, and each slow docks, a dawning dawn of blinds, symbolizes both death and mourning. So we have another set of questions that all can look at. Okay, let's answer two questions from this poem. One question one and question two. They are quite all all the questions here can answer them, but let's just answer two.
Sorry, I'm not seeing the question.
Can you see it now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So question one is examine the use of imagery in Anthem for Doomed Youth. Have people read that poem?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So can you examine the poet's use of imagery? You know what imagery is, ba?
Yes, ma.
Alright. So I want to quickly answer. No one is saying anything, no. I'll be back with thinking. Someone should say something, please. The use of imagery. Okay. What is your point now? Okay, since nobody's answering, let me help you guys. So, you're pointing out imagery. Okay. We see examples of gunfire, rifles, color of girl bro. And we also see examples of demented choirs or wailing shell. First, the, the writer, sorry, the poet, he used, let's say, this one now, where he talks about demented choirs of wailing shells. Instead of saying, sort of the normal choir now that we know, you're trying to picture a choir, a demented choir wailing shells. He's trying to use imagery now to one to evoke one. There's fear, whereby it's gunfire, rifle, and all of that stuff. This second part now is trying to evoke empathy, sorrow from the reader, especially when it comes to where he shifts to the home, where he talks about this last 6 lines now. He shifts to the home front where loved ones mourn the dead in silence. That's to say, the imagery now is just to evoke one fear in the heart of the reader, pity, let's call it pity, or let me use the word empathy and sorrow. You get? So that's that. The second one now is, how does Wilfred Owen portray war in the poem? How does he see war? Answer to that is in definitely this first one here. Where is that? Yeah. The poem highlights how senseless and brutal war is. So this poet doesn't see is someone that he wrote about this poem definitely to shame. It's kind of a way of shaming the actual causes of all these things. He believes that these kind of things can be avoided to him because the aftermath of war is something that it's hard to heal from. It's something that leaves the people, in more pain. So he sees that's why he used words like shame is senseless and brutal. Comes with tragedy, comes with lines. So he actually sees war as something that's not beneficial for the youth especially, because that's it's a way that the future of every country is killed. So he's not an advocate for war. So when the question now is, how does Wilfred Owen portray war in the poem? He portrays it as something that is um sickening. Yeah, because he used that word. Something that is sickening, something that comes to kill. It takes life. Discuss the tune of the poem, how it reflects the poet's attitude to war. People should answer this one. How does the tune of the poem reflect the tune of the poem and how it reflects the poet's attitude to war? This one, Who was that guy that answered the first time? Is he still in the class?
Yes, ma'am.
You're not giving us any answer.
I'm shy.
You're not shy the first time.
Okay, the theme of the poem, because one of the poem in the work, I think, is futility of war.
Yeah.
So that is how the writer views war. He views war as a wind that blows no one any good. Like there's no good that
Yeah.
comes out for war. That rather we should find a way to make peace. That he even says that one of the way to honor these soldiers in war is peace and diplomacy. That instead of honoring them with all these bells and ritual, why don't we stop the war in the first place? So he sees war as something that is not good at all. That is not right.
All right. So, what do you think his tone is? Is it a bit harsh? What's the tone used? That's the question, actually. No answer. I feel shy. All of you are too shy this night. All right, so the electronic devices, we've talked about it here. Um, the fourth question is identify and explain any two literary devices used in the poem. We've talked about some here: imagery, personification, illustration, and simile. So that one has been answered. So, any question? I'll send. Yes, I'll have to send the other poem to you. The summary of the other poem. What is that one now? At sunset. Because the summary I have now is not the one you are using for your exams. Aside this poem, it's all the poem you are to study for your exam. This four. Because people gave me a list of 4 poems. So no feedback.
Sorry, I didn't get you.
I like any question so far. One, that's not my question one. And secondly, are these all the poems you are to study for your exam? And the 4 poems I was giving a sunset, a nightfall in Soweto. What's this one again? Time for doomed youth and one ancient something like that. Ancient chant, something like that. No, it's 4 poems. So are these all? Which
Okay.
one do you
Um. There were. I think there are like two more. I think
8.
there's Femme Noir, that's Black Woman, and there's My Last Duchess.
Yes.
Okay, why do people give that one? People understand that one. People everybody wants, people don't understand.
Oh, I understand Black Woman and Last Duchess. It's just this anthem of a doomed youth I was having issues.
Okay, they people don't understand.
There's even Paradise Lost.
Yes, Paradise Lost.
Rather lost. I wasn't
Yeah,
giving
yeah,
this.
Paradise Lost.
Okay, I think the person that sent this list just sent the list of the ones that are kind of like difficult to understand because at sunset is not an African poem and also this one too. So I'm guessing the first one I read, that Nightfall in Soweto, you see that even though the poet was kind of like he was talking about nightfall like a person. I say your understanding is what he's like. His diction is kind of simple, but then the first time I read that at sunset now, it's not really that understandable because I understand where people are coming from. Most of these um foreign poems, their diction is not really simple like that. It's quite complex. So maybe that's why he submitted. I mean, he sent for the 4 poems. So for the rest, since people say people have 8, is it that people understand the rest? Do people understand the rest of the
No, ma, please, can you explain
So,
the Paradise Lost?
Please, ma, explain Paradise Lost.
Should I explain it now or I should send summary to people's group through the coordinator?
Please explain. Because
Send a
the
summary.
summary will be long. If you can just give like a brief explanation, just a brief explanation.
Okay, can you like send
Yes,
a
ma'am.
summary? I'm not gonna explain it this evening.
Okay. So I'll send through the coordinator again. I still have like one, two, I have two poems to send this night to him for you guys. So I'll send that to him for you. Where is it come? That can you people still hear me? Please, okay, this is what I was looking for. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the Paradise Lost. I mean, it's an African poem. Hello, I can't hear you guys again. No,
No, it's a non-African. It's non-African.
so non-African. No, that don't understand it. Okay. I'll send a summary to you. The coordinator.